I have been, over the years, a fairly tireless critic of Brexit for reasons that I don't even think need detailing anymore. There was a period when people thought I was wrong, or that it was going to go well, or that all of the warnings about what would happen to our economy, or what would happen to people hoping to live or work in Europe, or what would happen to the price of food, or what would happen to, you name it, really. Not necessarily caused by voting to become the first population in history to impose economic sanctions on itself, or falling for the lies of people like Nigel Farage and Boris Johnson. They're not caused necessarily, but anything bad is worse, and anything good is less good, pretty much as a consequence of that ludicrous decision. So I mentioned that solely to establish my credentials for having the conversation that we are about to have, because you might expect me to feel upbeat or vindicated or even perhaps excited about the speed with which opinions appear to be changing. Perhaps the most interesting element of the most recent YouGov survey was the finding that 1 in 5 Leave voters now want to rejoin. And of course, that would probably involve a second referendum, unless the numbers get so high. Do you know what? That's not impossible. So it gets up to about 80 or 90% in the polling. I wonder if a government would have the cojones to push it over the line. But of course, we're not going to get there. I mean the government, not the numbers. For, hundreds of years. And this is the point at which I find myself none of the things that I just suggested I might be. I'm not excited by this news. I'm certainly not vindicated by it. And neither am I particularly encouraged or enthused by it. Because I genuinely think that it is a waste of energy. And I know I've got a lot of friends, a lot of listeners, possibly even a lot of admirers who will be part of the rejoin march. There's a 24-point gap in almost all the polling now on the question of whether or not we should rejoin the European Union. And there is a march taking place in London next month that will seek to marshal that part of the population. It's on Saturday, the 23rd of September. It's kicking off in Hyde Park. It'll go past Downing Street and it will finish for a rally in Parliament Square. I've got no idea what the numbers will be like. And I haven't been asked to speak yet, but I probably will be. And I don't know that I can, because I'm not feeling it. And I think perhaps I thought I would be. Is it a waste of energy to mobilise on the prospect of rejoining the European Union? That is really what I want you to tell me. And I want you to come at it from whatever angle you like, but it is at least personal plus political. I don't understand why I am not. Maybe I am going to be a bit self-indulgent actually this morning. Maybe it's because we've got so used to losing everything. If you're on the sort of progressive or decent side of political battles. I suppose Joe Biden won in America, but he's not the most inspirational candidate you've ever seen. He's no Barack Obama, is he? But you've lost referendums, you've lost general elections, you've sat back and seen both major parties offer up the most appalling of Hobson's choices in 2019. You sort of, maybe that's it. Maybe you just don't think good things happen anymore to this country, to a country where, people who have been disciplined, criticised by Parliament for riding roughshod over our own parliamentary democracy get rewarded with columns in the Daily Mail and programmes on weird new television stations that don't make any profit, that hemorrhage money, but exist solely that the owners can continue to influence public discourse. The country is completely crackers now. Yeah, the think tanks getting their claws into every corner of government and media without ever telling you who works, who pays their wages. Media cheerleading for the most disgraceful and disgraced Prime Minister in history. The fact that Johnson can get chucked out of Downing Street and then run away from the House of Commons rather than face proper scrutiny of his own actions. And not only have a bunch of weasels queuing up to claim that it's been some sort of witch hunt or kangaroo court, but also get rewarded with a column in a newspaper. Newspapers traditionally the last chance that the population of a country has to hold politicians, hold power to account. Can you imagine that? Can you even conceive of living in a country where the media holds power to account? Media in this country has been tickling the toes of some of the most ridiculous and depraved politicians we've ever had the misfortune of enduring. And yet they turn up in studios to have their tummies tickled by client journalists, or they pop up in newspapers with their own columns despite having been thrown out in disgrace. It's mad, right? I may have come pretty much to the end of writing my new book. You may be able to detect some of the themes that emerge in it, and possibly even a slight bounce in my demeanour this morning. And of course, both a major cause and an enormous symptom of the malaise that I describe, of the rot that has set in to this country. Some of it deliberate, some of it accidental, was the successful campaign of lies and misinformation in 2016 that persuaded just enough people that if they voted to leave the European Union, they would be better off. The NHS would improve, there would be shorter waiting lists, there would be cheaper food, there would be cheaper energy, there would be, if you are a bit racist, fewer immigrants, there would be, you name it, it was going to happen. None of it has, which is why we know the 30% who claim they're still glad they did it are lying to themselves. But with all of that in place, I currently, and I'd love to hit 11 o'clock today, Alec, I'm just looking at your text, I'd love to hit 11 o'clock today with a little bit more lead in my pencil. He says, please don't talk the movement down. We need people like you behind us or we will be doomed to stay out of Europe forever. I hope you will be with us at the march in September. So do I. I hope I have a slight change. It's not a permanent position, Alec. I just don't see the point at this point. My personal perspective, and I've given it quite a lot of thought this morning, is too soon, lads. It's not going to, I don't care what the numbers are doing. The political landscape, not least because Keir Starmer, the prince of pragmatism, refuses even to go there. Not even. I mean, he's not just not going there, he's running away from going there. He's actively putting space between him and any prospect of coming out in support of rejoining. Just for the record, he is talking twaddle when he bigs up the notion of being able to improve our relationship. The only way you improve your relationship with the European Union is regulatory alignment, legislated regulatory alignment. And the only way, if you have regulatory alignment, you're in it. You're subject to all the rules and regulations designed to protect workers and uphold health and safety and other standards, all the things that Jacob and his mates were desperate to set fire to. And if you're doing that, then you have literally become a rule taker, not a rule maker. Brexit eventually will turn the United Kingdom into all the things that Brexiters lied about it being in order to get votes. That's the ultimate irony of Brexit. So I can see the reasons in an objective universe, in a logical space, should have a referendum tomorrow to do it. But I just don't think it's going to happen. And therefore, I don't really see the point at the moment in... I'll tell you what, I mean, I was about to say I don't see the point in pushing for rejoin. I don't see the point in marching for rejoin. Here's an interesting thing we can add to our conversation. I don't see the point in polling. I bet that surprises you. Every poll on Brexit is effectively a pat on the back for me and many of you. Every poll on Brexit is an I told you so moment. Every poll on Brexit is Keith, get the tin. Every poll on Brexit is completely ignored by all the people in my line of work who told you to support it because they are too cowardly and shameful to own their own error. If you do a job like this and you lead the country towards this sort of catastrophe, you need to have very, very, very thick skin, I think, not to reflect upon the betrayal you've undertaken of your own listeners and readers and viewers. But I still don't see it. I still don't feel it. The appetite is there, but it's not reflected in our politics, certainly not in public. I think Sadiq Khan is the only politician who's really put his head above the parapet, apart from the Liberal Democrats who, for reasons, continue to fail to draw the sort of attention that many feel they deserve, myself included. I think a more multiple, a more varied political choice is good for democracy, good for the country. But there it is. So what do you think about this energy that's been expended on calling for rejoin?